Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to talk about how to protect yourself financially from earthquakes. Coming up. Hi everyone, this is Ernesto from AttaBoyCowBoy, and on this channel we give you health and wealth tips to help you be more successful. Today I'm recording from Catalina Island, California. If you look off into the distance there, you might be able to see our cruise ship. I came out with about 11 family members and we just did a short trip after Thanksgiving, spent a few days together, just kind of hang out. And we came to this beautiful island right off the coast of Los Angeles here. And I started remembering about the earthquake country that we live in. And in particular, I have a friend that lives in Albania. His name's Andy, and they just had a big earthquake about a week ago, about 20 miles from the capital of Tirana, it's called. And my friend was talking to me about the earthquake, and I started thinking about buying earthquake insurance and the experience I've had with it. So I wanted to share that with you because I've had a few friends over the years that have asked me the question, should I buy earthquake insurance or not for my house? And I'm going to share a personal experience with you to tell you why I think you should buy it. When I first started working in real estate about 15, almost 20 years ago, I remember we got this building and I asked a bunch of my friends, should I buy earthquake insurance? And they said, no way. It's a huge expense. You can use that money for investing. You can use it for all sorts of other stuff. So I kind of played with the idea a little bit. I did the math. I did end up buying it, but I'll give you an idea of what I was paying. I basically paid about $300 for fire insurance for the building, which is required by most banks. And the earthquake insurance was about $1,500 for the year. So it was 5 times as much for the earthquake insurance. Now, we had a big earthquake here. I'm born and raised here in California. And just so you're aware, we literally have hundreds to thousands of earthquakes per day in Los Angeles, California. Actually, throughout the state of California. The reason being is that we're right on a plate tectonic plate. And for those of you that are not aware what that is, think of getting an egg, like a hard-boiled egg, and then dropping it on the floor and breaking it. And there's cracks all over that egg. And that's how the earth is. It's kind of like a big puzzle. It's stuck together. And wherever those puzzle pieces are touching, the pieces are either converging where they're building up, and then you get the mountains or this island we're on. You might see some of the mountains off in the at the rear there. Those are the San Bernardino Mountains in Los Angeles. Coincidentally, we just had a bunch of snow this week. People are snowboarding. Or you can have divergence where the plates are actually pulling apart. In fact, they say that in the future, part of California is actually going to get ripped off from the state, including Los Angeles. It's going to become an island because the plate is diverging, it's pulling away. Now what that does is it causes a lot of pressure and it causes earthquakes, and we had this big earthquake in I think 1991 in Northridge, and I remember it destroyed a bunch of my friends' houses. In fact, my friend Mike McClure, he had about 2 years off paid by the government through an organization called FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Association, and they gave them vouchers for apartments, they paid for school, they gave them all these awesome benefits to help people get back on their feet. And that's actually how he got into his profession as a school counselor, because they paid him basically to go to school, get himself together. But I remember driving through there and everything was wrecked. The Cal State University Northridge was collapsed. The library took about 10-15 years to actually rebuild it, and it caused a lot of property damage. And in that process, a lot of the insurance companies, knowing that this is earthquake country, bailed. They said, you know what, this is too high risk, we're leaving California. We're still going to sell fire insurance or car insurance or whatever, but we're no longer going to offer earthquake insurance. So what the state of California did is they started selling their own earthquake insurance. And obviously, because it's not for profit, the rates are much more competitive. So I bought that earthquake insurance, and like I said, I paid $1,500 $100, $1,500 for a year. Now, because it's not for profit, that money actually just keeps building up. And again, this was about 20 years ago. Now that California Earthquake Fund, it's actually called CEA, the California Earthquake Authority. They have so much money built up. I read they have about 10 times the money they need to actually rebuild the homes of the people that they insure. So what that's done is it's lowered the premiums significantly. Now that same building I mentioned earlier that I'm paying $300 for fire insurance 15 years ago, I'm now paying $500. That's not bad. It's went up about 40%, which is a lot, but it's only $200 in about 15 years. On the other hand, the earthquake insurance that I was paying $1,500 for went down to about $300. So it actually dropped 80%. So $300 a year is not bad for earthquake insurance in earthquake country. And what it gives you is, let's say you have a house that's worth $300,000 for the structure, not the land. This particular building I'm talking about is worth about $400,000, let's say, $400,000 for the structure. You have to pay a 10% deductible. So I'd have to pay 40 grand, and then the insurance would pay $400,000 to rebuild the entire building. That's a great deal. You only pay 10%. Now, if we were to have an earthquake in California, FEMA would come in and they would actually give you that deductible. They would pay for it. In most cases, they'll pay that 10% and I'll get my house rebuilt for free. So for $300 a year, that's pretty good. If you do the math, in 10 years, it's 3 grand. In about 30 years, it's 9 grand. That's nothing. I probably won't be around in about 30, 40 years. So I'm looking at $9,000 to $12,000 to insure my house from being destroyed from an earthquake. Now, my friend was telling me, well, why do I want to spend $9,000 or $12,000? It's a good question. Why would you? Well, because I worked really hard my whole life. I've saved, I bought a house, I live somewhere. And if I have an earthquake and everything I own just gets destroyed, I'm out. I'm going to become homeless. And I don't really want to be in that type of situation. I'm going to be scrambling. If I'm retired, I'm going to have to go back to work. It can put you in a very unsavory situation. So that's the idea about insurance. Insurance is about hedging risks. You may never have a car accident or a fire in your house or an earthquake or or disability or whatever type of insurance you buy, but it protects you in case you do. And in this case, this is a high risk area. It's hundreds to thousands of earthquakes per day. And since the 80s, they've been saying we're waiting for the big one in California, which is supposedly going to wipe out everything. Well, 80s, 90s, 2010, 2019, it's been almost 40 years since they've been saying that. That sounds like a long time, but it's not. It's very little time. And actually, it could still happen at any time. And I don't want to end up in that situation. So my suggestion is if you're considering whether or not to buy earthquake insurance or flood insurance or tornado insurance, depending on where you live in the country, or hurricane insurance, I would definitely buy that because it's going to protect your assets and it's going to prevent you from having to suffer some of the economic consequences of these natural disasters. So today from Catalina Island, California, this is AttaBoy Cowboy. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.